We are live. What's up, my friends? Abby here. Welcome to another Write With Me live stream, our third live group writing session of the June Writing Retreat 2025, our fifth annual virtual writing retreat. First things first, tell me if you can hear me and see me okay. Type in the chat, let me know where you're tuning in from, and if all is working well on my end as far as video and audio go. Yeah, so let me know in the chat. And I would also love to hear, what are you working on during this writing session? Some of you are part of my annual writing retreat, which is happening all month long in the month of June. We've been doing this for 5 years now, coming together as a community in the month of June to write together, to work on our works in progress, to make progress on our creative projects, even if we are editing or revising or maybe working towards publishing. Or maybe you're writing a first draft of something totally new. It doesn't matter if it's a novel, a screenplay, a webcomic, a short story, maybe a short story collection, maybe poetry. It doesn't matter what you're working on, just that you are showing up for yourself and your creativity. So anyone is welcome to join this retreat. And it is basically halfway through the retreat now, because we are at June 15th, which is like yesterday was the halfway mark, 2 weeks into this. Or maybe today is. I guess today is like actually the halfway mark, because there are 30 days in June. So awesome. I'm so glad that you guys have joined this writing session and that you're part of this retreat. So I see a lot of you tuning in from all over the world. Amazing. I see UK, Finland, Portugal, Canada, Denmark. Let's see, Florida, Missouri. Awesome. And so many writers writing many different genres, which I always love to see. Let's see, a dystopian novel, historical fiction, romance, contemporary. Let's see, I saw dystopian, I saw fantasy novel. Awesome. Editing a fantasy novella. Sweet. So whatever you are working on, when you show up, you are making progress. That is the whole point of this retreat. Even if you are just using today to brainstorm or maybe make character profiles or flesh out some new part of your story, some new idea that you want to explore, all of it is good. All of it is worthy progress. And we are here as a community to help each other and cheer each other on as we continue on this path. So that's the point of these live streams. If it is your first time joining one of these live streams, here is the way it goes. I'm going to set a timer for 25 minutes, and we're going to do 4 sprints of 25 minutes on and 5-minute breaks in between to chat about our books. So that's usually how it rolls. And we're going to do 4 sprints total. You guys can feel free to set your own timers if you want to follow your own timers, or just follow mine. You will hear mine go off when the time is up, but some of you like to mute the video because you don't like the sound of my typing. It's totally up to you. You can still participate either way. And if you're in Discord, I'm also going to be running sprints in Discord. So if you want to join the Discord and you want to be part of this community on a deeper level, and you want to interact with other members every single day, do writing sprints with me every morning this month from 8 to 11 a.m. Eastern. All of that and more is in the Discord, and you can get access to the Discord by joining my Patreon at any level, and the link to that is below this live stream if you want to check that out. Let's see, a super chat came in from Hannah Woods. Thank you so much, Hannah. You're amazing. A little super chat because this writing retreat has been such a gift to me, and I am so grateful for you in this amazing community. Started as a spontaneous project this month, or you started a spontaneous project this month that you adore and wouldn't be this far without you. That is awesome. I'm so glad for you, Hannah. And thank you so much for the super chat. I love it when I see writers like start something spontaneous that you aren't sure where it's even going to take you, and then ends up taking you somewhere amazing. That is the best feeling ever. And honestly, I kind of experienced that with this series that I'm writing. This historical fiction mystery series, which I'm on book 3. And that's what I'm going to be writing today. And it's funny because it started as a short story flash fiction idea. I didn't even know it was going to be a novel, let alone 3 books. So that just goes to show how amazing it can be when you just follow your creative instincts and follow your heart and go after the idea. Even if it's a little scary, even if you feel like I could never write that. Because I used to think I could never write historical fiction because there's just way too much to learn and research, but it has been so amazing, and I'm so glad I did. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start the sprint in Discord for 25 minutes. Feel free to join the sprint over there if you desire. I'm going to go ahead and join with 0 starting words. I did write a chapter this morning, and it ended on quite a cliffhanger. So yeah, I'm looking forward to diving back into this. So feel free to join on Discord if you're over there. If not, stay here on the video, and we're going to get into sprint number 1. Okay, so hopefully you have your work in progress ready, maybe something yummy to drink, and we're going to get started with our first sprint. I'm going to go ahead and set my timer so that it will ring when the time is up. And hold on a second. My iPad is on power saving mode, so I'm going to try to make it so the screen won't go dark. Here we go. All right, guys. 25 minutes. Let's go.
Okay, boom. First sprint finished. Great job, guys. How did the first sprint go? Let me know in the chat. Let's see, I wrote 333 words. I have been seeing that number everywhere lately. Pretty interesting. Okay, words. Feel free to update your number in the Discord if you're in there. Otherwise, just type in the chat if you want to share. And we're going to answer a few questions first, and then we'll get into our next sprint. So let's see. You guys did amazing. Fantastic job. Wonderful work, everybody. You're doing great. Off to a wonderful start. And don't worry if you feel like you haven't written many words yet. It is just the beginning of the session, so you have plenty of time to get in the zone. Let's see. Okay, first questions from Lulu Tay. How do I write my meet cute? I'm writing a grumpy girl, sunshine boy romance drama. Really good question. I actually have a video on my channel all about writing meet cutes, like the art of the perfect meet cute. So definitely check that out if you haven't seen it already. But it really depends, of course, on what your story is and what you have going on, the situation that you have going on. What I like to think of when I'm developing a meet cute is like, what would be memorable for these characters to experience? What is a situation that I could put them in where there could be some humor, maybe some little bit of irony, and how can I play off their personality traits? So you have a grumpy girl and a sunshine guy, which I love. I love that pairing a lot more than grumpy guy, sunshine girl, but everybody, likes their own version of that. But I think it's really fun to play with the dichotomy of those personalities. So what situation could they meet in where we really get to see, why is she grumpy? And why does he have such a great attitude about everything? What are some situations where they could clash over those personalities? It will be different for every book. So definitely use what works best for you and just enjoy it, like just find the fun. That's what I would recommend doing. Like finding the humor in it for your own pleasure. That's what I always try to do anyway. So hopefully that helps. Let's see. Mana asks, what is the best way to edit your novel? Really good question. And I highly recommend self-editing a lot before you ever hire a professional editor. And I actually have a whole series of videos on my channel, which I highly recommend checking out, all about
editing your book. So I'd recommend starting with the one that is about revisions. If you go to YouTube and type in Abby Emmons, How to Revise a Messy First Draft, that one is a really good place to start if you're like doing revisions. I also have a video about line editing, and I have 2 videos that are 10-week words to cut from your novel, which is 20-week words in total. So lots of good editing resources there. I highly recommend checking those out. Wield asked, how do I foreshadow a lot of events in a series? Really good question. Foreshadowing is definitely one of those things that it feels like it's hard to explain, because it's like there's no right or wrong way to necessarily do it, because you can plant little clues throughout your series in many different ways, however it fits for your story. But I would recommend foreshadowing in a way that like you're planting these subtle clues, but it's not confusing. So your story is still going by, like all the plot points are still happening and everything is still happening according to the plot. But basically you are looking at the end goal and then backtracking throughout your story to see, okay, where can I plant some little subtle clues here and there? Like some character sees a piece of evidence that's going to point to something later on, or maybe they find a letter, or they overhear a conversation, or they find some object that is going to mean something later. Planting those clues early on is going to be the foreshadowing that you need to make the later plot twists or the later revelations feel like they weren't an afterthought. And that's basically all foreshadowing is you want the final reveal to not feel like an afterthought. So hopefully that helps. I want to make a video on foreshadowing because I feel like there's a lot of subtleties to explore there. Let's see, a super chat came in. I will answer that before we go into our next sprint. Thank you so much from Sam I Am. I'm a fan of espionage movies and books, but I think most are guilty of having too many locations and exposition dumps. Thoughts on preventing this? Yeah, really good point. A lot of times the exposition dumps and even switching location can get chaotic at times. It can feel like this is a lot to take in. So avoiding this or preventing this, I would say figure out what you need to explain with exposition. Like there has to be like some specific details, whether it's like the motive of one character, or they are maybe a spy, but we think that they're a spy for someone else, but really they're a spy for somebody else. Like those kinds of complicated things with espionage can become very layered and muddy and confusing. I agree. So I would say like make a list yourself just for you of like things that you need to explain. Like they are non-negotiable. They're going to have to be explained somehow. And once you have that list, you will be able to kind of pare down what is the most important things and how can I explain this in a really like satisfying way at the right time where it isn't confusing. And I think where a lot of espionage movies and books go wrong is that they go into like these really long-winded explanations of the true nature of something without letting you see it unfold with action. And that is a huge topic, of course, for another time. It's kind of like world building, honestly, where you can like hit pause and explain everything with an info dump, or you can show us through action. So that would be a good video for another time. But I would say, honestly, all the same rules apply as with world building, where if you can show the revelation of what's happening, like, you know, the spy reveals their true identity. Okay, let's take something like that for an espionage story. Having that happen through an action scene rather than like a conversation where it's just like an info dump exposition moment. I think that can really help to make it feel more active, to make it feel more less overwhelming is what I'm trying to say. I'm going to go ahead and set up the next sprint in Discord. Feel free to join over there if you're in Discord. If not, just stay here on the live stream. I'm going to set our timers for another 25 minutes. But thank you for the super chat. I hope that answer helped. I feel like it was just like a really wordy answer, so I apologize for that. But exposition through action is always my go-to. Sometimes you'll need to have exposition through dialogue, but the more you can show through action, the better. That's always my rule of thumb. And also just not making it too complicated, you know? I think that's another thing that, like, espionage movies and books can fall into, is like, oh, this has to be really complex, really complicated. Like, there has to be 17 plot twists and everybody has to have like split loyalties and everyone's a double agent. It's like that gets a little bit overwhelming. It like loses its power, you know? It's like The Boy Who Cried Wolf. It doesn't have as much of like a shock factor anymore when you overuse it too much. But that's just my opinion. Okay, let's get into our next sprint. Okay, sprint number 2 is done. Fantastic work, guys. Type in the chat. Let me know how it went. Hopefully that was a productive sprint for you guys. I was just getting into the zone too. Hopefully you guys are feeling inspired, getting those words down. Feel free to share your word count in the chat or in Discord if you're over there. Let's see. I think I may have missed a super chat. So let me go back real quick. There were a couple super chats, one from Selma and one from Robin. Thank you both so much for the super chats. I'm sorry if I missed your comment, Selma. I didn't see that attached to your super chat, so feel free to post it again if I missed it. Let's see. Another super chat came in from SD Willie. Thank you so much. I have a character who has a low self opinion of themselves. Does it need to be justified with flashbacks? Can it be taken as a given? P.S. Has anyone said you resemble a young Kelly Clarkson? No, I've never had that before, but that's funny. Thank you. So does it need to be justified with flashbacks? I don't really think so. It depends on the character. It depends on like how low their self-esteem really is. I feel like a lot of people struggle with self-esteem and it doesn't necessarily connect to any one flashback or any like specific type of trauma or bullying or something. Like a lot of people have low self-esteem without ever even being criticized or bullied. So I feel like for this case, you don't necessarily need to justify it with a flashback, but I would like, what's the word? I would like reinforce it with their own like negative self-talk. And that can be something that's happening in the present moment, and something that will just help to really emphasize how this character sees themselves. It's always a good thing to have that internal dialogue going, because we all have that, right? We all have this like internal dialogue of what we think of ourselves. If we're like, oh, that sounded stupid, or oh, I look so dumb, or I don't, all this negative self-talk that we have all the time. So yeah, something to incorporate in your character's thought process in the present day, but I don't think it really justifies having to go into a flashback. Let's see. Lucy Hammer asked, how do you increase word count? I want my book to be a full-length novel without feeling like I'm just adding a bunch of filler. Yeah, you definitely don't want to add filler just for the sake of making your book longer. I would say to make your book longer, my go-to is always to add subplots that mean something to the main character. So my go-to for this is to look to my side characters and see, okay, how can I give them a subplot or give them a micro goal, something that they're pursuing that maybe also relates to and matters to the main character. And just having that subplot exist in your story will up the word count tremendously. Like you'll be surprised by just how touching on that one subplot here and then, like every once in a while, every few chapters, we get a little update on it. That's going to add to the word count of your story. And it's also going to make your characters more sympathetic. It's going to make us care about them more because we see, okay, they're not just here because they have like a role to fulfill as, the best friend or the love interest or whatever. They have their own goal. They could be the protagonist of their own story. So what are they trying to do on the side? That will help you tremendously with adding to that word count. Let's see. A super chat came in from Theodora. Thank you so much for this super chat. In a book series, can my character's misbelief and her character journey to letting go of that misbelief expand over several books? Absolutely. In fact, I highly recommend doing this because it will make your character's transformation feel so much more believable, especially if you have a lot going on with the plot, which oftentimes is the case for a series. We have a lot of external conflict going on, so we want the character arcs to feel earned and to feel like the pacing is right. Right? So make sure you are giving your character, still letting them have those pivotal moments where they do have something of a transformation. Like they should have changed a little bit, at least from the beginning of book one to the end of book one. But if that transformation isn't complete, that's totally okay. Like you have a whole series to work on this character's transformation. You'll see how they have changed a little bit. Like their character is starting to lean in that direction of change. Something is happening, something is stirring below the surface for them, but maybe they haven't had their full like aha moment yet, and that's coming in a later book. If so, that is totally good. And I feel like that can feel more realistic in a lot of cases to have it spread out over several books rather than having like packing everything into one book. So hopefully that helps. Next super chat's from Kylie, sorry. Thank you so much. Any advice for when you have a plot idea you love, but can't seem to connect it to a character's internal conflict? That's a really good question. And that's something that I feel like it's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time and brainstorming. When I have a plot idea that I'm like, oh, this would be a cool premise, this would be kind of an irresistible, fun premise, I try to think about, okay, who would that happen to? And when that happens to that person, how would that challenge them in a emotional way? Like, how would they be internally challenged by that? And then once you can figure out the internal challenge beyond just the external challenge, then you kind of know. Like, you kind of immediately know, like, okay, this type of person would be internally, emotionally challenged by this. You kind of know what their internal conflict is going to be. So I would say if you have a story idea like this that you feel like you're not quite there yet with the internal conflict, just ruminate on it, think about it, brainstorm a little bit more, and I think it will come to you. Okay, I'm going to grab one more super chat before we get into our next sprint. This one's from Caleb. Thank you so much. Hey, Abby, I just want to say that I've been following you for a while, and your work inspires me. Right now, I'm editing a sci-fi novel, Academy Rise of Intelligence, and I miss just drafting it. Thank you so much for the super chat, and thank you for that encouraging note. I'm so happy that this writing retreat has been helping you and that my videos have been helping you and inspiring you. And that is so cool that you are persevering with this first draft of your sci-fi. That is so important. And like I said in today's writing retreat email, the first drafting process can be messy. It can be a little chaotic, but it is absolutely necessary to get your hands dirty, get down into that gold mine, right? To get the gold out of the mine. And then in the editing stage, you can polish that gold, make it something bookshelf ready. But don't worry too much about making it bookshelf ready right now. This is just the moment to get your ideas down, to make them exist. So let's get back into it on that note. I'm going to set up another sprint in the Discord. Feel free to join over there. I'm going to join and dive back into this scene. Yay, sprint number 3 is finished. Great job, guys. Hopefully that sprint went well for you. Type in the chat. Let me know how it went. Hopefully you're making good progress. See, I'm up to 984 words. Awesome. And I think I missed a super chat, so I'm going to go back into the chat real quick. A super chat came in from Deborah Edwards. Thank you so much for this super chat. You said, my World War II coming of age story is coming along nicely. How would you keep the main character's story from being overshadowed by the external conflict of the war? Really good question, especially for writing any sort of historical fiction where you have like a big event happening, like you're in the middle of a war or some sort of historical event. I would say that the number one thing that I would advise to do here is give the characters like post-war goals. So obviously in the midst of the war, they don't know how long it's going to last, but I think a lot of people are usually generally hopeful that like it will end soon. So what are these characters going to do after it ends? Like, what is their dream goal for, in a perfect world, when all of this is over, I'm going to do this. This is my ultimate purpose. This is my dream. This is my ambition. And even if they can't make progress on that goal right now because of the external conflict of the war going on, they can still like have that dream and hold on to that and even use that as like hope to get them through it. So this is something that I feel really pulls on the heartstrings of your readers and also just pulls you through the story because you're like, okay, this character has this sense of purpose. Like it's kind of like the survival genre. Like survival is enough conflict. It's not enough that your character wants to survive because everyone wants to survive. But what will they do if they survive? What is beyond the threshold of survival? Like what is that ultimate goal? So I would start there. Hopefully that helps. I find that can be really helpful. Let's see. Question from Author Writes 09. I feel like my writing is way too dressy and it makes it dull and boring. Yeah, so like writing purple prose or anything that's like a little bit too wordy, too descriptive. I would say just take the pressure off to be like super descriptive or poetic. Like give yourself permission to write ugly. It doesn't need to be pretty in the first draft. And in fact, you're finding that making it like trying really hard to make it pretty and dressed up is making it feel dry and boring. So I would say lean more into the emotions of what's going on rather than like the physical descriptions or, trying to make your prose sound good. Like really all you need for good prose is 3 ingredients: flavor, rhythm, and emotion. And I would highlight the emotion here because of the struggle that you're facing right now. I would say lean more into the emotion of what is going on. And kind of coming off of that, another question from Lulu Tay. How do I know when I'm being too poetic with my descriptions? I'm writing a multi-point of view and it's the main character describing things. Both main characters are starting to sound the same describing. Really good question, because you want to differentiate these two for sure, because you don't want both your characters to sound like the same voice, right? You want them to sound distinct from each other. So I would say stick to like, if one character is more poetic than the other, then like let just their point of view be the poetic descriptions. But even then, don't go too overboard. Like try to strip it down to like, what is the best thing here? And I like to kind of use this rule of one sight, one sound, one smell, especially with physical descriptions of like a scene or a setting, or we're in a new room, we're in a new location. What is one thing we see, one thing we smell, and one thing we hear? So that can be, various different things depending on what you're writing, but try to like strip it down to just those few basic sensory things, because then you still have the sensory detail, but not an overwhelming amount of each one. You know what I mean? Because sometimes writers can get overwhelming with the sight. Like we just focus on sight. Like I want to show you everything we see, but we don't get to experience any of the smells or the sounds of the environment. And those two senses are very important in painting a picture. So I would say just like trying to strip it down and make it as punchy and potent as possible. let's see. I'll answer one more question here. Lucy asked, how do you get into your character's voice each time you write? Every time I start, I have to spend 20 minutes trying to get it right. Well, my secret weapon for this is if I have something that I've written already in this character's voice, which in this case, I'm writing a 3-book series, so I have lots of material to work from. If I'm going to start writing a character's voice, I will go back to one of their previous chapters that I really loved and I really felt like I was in their voice writing it. And I will read like at least a page or two of that scene. It doesn't matter if it's something that happened way earlier. It's just to get that part of my brain working. I like to turn on that switch in my brain of like, okay, that's what this character's voice feels like. I just read a scene where it's in their point of view. It feels very strong in their voice. And that really helps me to get into the voice of that character. It's kind of like, I guess this would be sort of like method acting, maybe, that you're like trying to surround yourself with like, what does this character sound like already? You can even get inspiration from other characters, like in movies or TV shows. If there's any character that reminds you of your character, go watch clips of them in that movie or TV show. Find scene packs of that character on YouTube and just watch that. Just like get their voice stuck in your head like a song. And you'll find that it's way easier to show up and start writing in their voice. Okay, hopefully that helps. Let's get into our final sprint. You guys are doing amazing in the Discord as well. So let's set up our 4th and final sprint. 25 minutes. Let's finish strong. I know we're going over 2 hours here, but it's okay. It's okay. As long as you're not like supposed to be going and celebrating Father's Day right now with your father, then it's totally okay. And if you are a father here on the live stream, happy Father's Day. You are spending your time well by working on your story. Seriously. Okay, so I joined over there and I'm going to set my timer. Get into this final sprint. Let's finish strong, guys. Great job, guys. That is the end of sprint 4. Wonderful work. Tell me in the chat how it went as a whole. I almost finished my chapter, not quite. 1396 is my final word count. That was 412 words for that sprint. Awesome. Looks like you guys made amazing progress as well. Fantastic work, you all. You are amazing, and I'm so proud of you for showing up for your creativity today and for writing with me. It was really fun and very special, and I'm so glad that you guys are part of this writing community and this writing retreat. So if you are part of the writing retreat, then you definitely want to continue to write with me on Discord. Even if you're not part of the writing retreat, you can still join the Discord, and that is at my Patreon, which is in the link below this video, below this live stream. You will find the link to my Patreon. If you join at any level, you get access to the Discord, and it's a lot like this. We show up every day to write together. I'm in there every single day from 8 to 11 a.m. this month for the writing retreat, and we are always sharing ideas and sharing our progress and celebrating together and sharing our writing. It's a super fun, vibrant, and encouraging community. I think you would love it over there if you like these live streams. So definitely check that out with the link below. But until then, you can stick around on this channel. Make sure you're subscribed because there's going to be more Write With Me live streams. There's going to be one more live writing session for the month for this writing retreat, and that's going to be like a group immersive writing session. So keep an eye out for that. I believe it's going to happen on the 30th, but I might be wrong about that. It might be sooner. I can't remember the schedule, but if you're part of the writing retreat, you know the schedule. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Make sure you're subscribed to this channel if you haven't already, and stick around because I have lots of fun new content coming out for you this coming month and this summer. So keep an eye out for that. And I'm so grateful and happy that you are here in this community. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you again for writing with me. And as always, continue writing, staying creative, staying devoted to your craft, and rock on.